So, good evening and welcome to today's class. Today we're going to start Unit 7B. Now, it's called A Beautiful Idea. And here on the top right hand corner, now we have a very nice quote. It says, "All artists are willing to suffer for their work, but why are so few prepared to learn to draw?" Now, that was said by Banksy, who is a British graffiti artist. He's very famous because nobody really knows who he is, but every so often his graffiti art pops up all over the United Kingdom now, and he did his very famous stunt whereby he sold a work of art which was automatically shredded. Do you remember? Well, let's have a look now at exercise 1, listening and speaking. Can you see? Now we're going to do A, B and C all at the same time. Now let's have a look. I'll explain. Let's see. So letter A says, look at the photos. 4 of the objects are famous works of art. With a partner, decide which ones they are. We can't do it with a partner, but let's have a look. We've got number 1 is a cot, looks like a cot. Number 2 looks like Lego. No, number 3 kind of looks like maybe an office or a bookshop. Number 4 is a giant frog. Number 5 is a slinky. Number 6 looks like a load of maybe stones on the floor. Number 7 is kind of maybe a quartz or a mineral stone. And number 8 looks like a piece of furniture with lots of drawers, maybe some sort of filing cabinet. Now let's have a look at letter B. It says, read the definition of installation art. Okay, let's do that. Can you see? It's right over here on the right. Installation art. So installation art is an artistic genre which is designed to transform people's perception of a space, often incorporating everyday or natural materials and media such as video or sound. I think you use the same word in Spanish, don't you, if I'm not mistaken? Now, okay, so we've read the definition. Let's go back to letter B. Then it says, listen to Ghislaine Kenyon, who has worked in education at National Gallery in London, talking about the 4 works of art. Because remember, out of the 8 pictures above, only 4 are actually works of art. It says match 4 of the photos to the descriptions, A to D. Can you see them on the right? Okay. And then it says, listen again and complete the descriptions. What is the idea behind each piece? Now, let me explain. I'm going to play the recording with the transcript, okay? Because it's quite long. It's more than 5 minutes, okay? But you can listen as many times as you need, okay? But I will say no cheating. Don't read the transcript until it's absolutely necessary. So, shall we look at our description so we know a little bit more now? So it says title, Kobe by Artist is Florentin Hoffman. It's 10 meters high and was made for the roof of a in Kobe in Letter B, title is Blanau Festiniog. Now, Blanau Festiniog is a place in by British artist. It was part of an exhibition of art created from different landscapes called and Letter C, title by artist Mona Hatoum. It's a sculpture by an artist who was born in but exiled from her homeland to and letter D, the title is by British artist Damien Hirst. Oh, he's quite famous, isn't he? It's like a real room with some unusual things such as 3 with of on them and a machine for suspended from the ceiling. Now remember, we're going to do A, B and C. So letter A, we must identify which photos are the pieces of art. B, we must identify which photo goes with each description. Now, A, B, C and D. And we must complete the descriptions. Are you ready? Now remember, we're going to play the recording with the transcript, so only listen for the moment. Are you ready?
4.7.
So, could you tell us a bit about the 4 pieces of art and explain the ideas that they're somehow communicating?
Okay, let's start with the frog. It's called Kobe Frog, and it's by the Dutch artist Florentin Hoffman. And it's an enormous inflatable 10 metres high object. And it was made in 2011 for a particular place, the roof of the Museum of Art in Kobe in Japan. And Kobe was the site of a very severe earthquake in 1995.
Yes.
And the frog is wearing a party hat, and it sits very close to the edge of the roof. The artist says that it's about enjoying life and having a flexible attitude in times of disaster. I'm not sure whether the people of Kobe would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Next we come to the stones. This is a work called Blaenau Festiniog Circle. Blaenau Festiniog is the name of a town in Wales, and this work is by the artist Richard Long, and it was in an exhibition of his called Heaven and Earth. And what Richard Long does is that he spends months of the year walking through different landscapes, and he creates art out of the things he finds there. His main theme is the relationship between art and landscape, and here he has created a beautiful harmonious arrangement of different local stones that he's chosen. And what he wants to do is to make people stop and look and realise how beautiful the countryside, and in this case the stones also, can be.
Okay.
Then we come to the cot, and this is a modern sculpture by Mona Hatoum, and it's called Incommunicado. And at first sight, you might think it was a baby's cot. It doesn't look like a modern cot, but it looks as if it might be a hospital cot from, say, 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it a bit more closely, you notice that there's something strange about the bottom of the cot, where the support for the mattress should be. And in fact, it's a series of very sharp wires. Mona Hatoum is a Palestinian artist who was born in Beirut, but she was exiled from her homeland to London. And I think if we ask ourselves what her idea might be, well, it's a cot, and a cot is normally a protective bed for a baby, where a baby will be safe. But this cot is the opposite of that. So if you got into this cot, instead of being safe, you'd be seriously damaged or seriously injured. I think this cot is a kind of metaphor for the idea of the state, the country that should look after you, your mother country or your fatherland. But in an extreme political situation, instead of being safe or being at home, you feel threatened because of political oppression. And I think probably that's the metaphor that she's making here. Finally, there's Pharmacy. This is an installation by Damien Hirst, and it occupies a whole room. If you were in an art gallery and you suddenly walked into this room, you might almost think you'd walked into a real pharmacy by accident. But if you start looking, you'll start seeing things which look strange. For example, there are 3 little stools, that the kind of stools you use to reach up to higher shelves. And on top of each one is a bowl with honey in it. And if you look up, suspended from the ceiling, there is a kind of machine for killing insects. And there are 4 old-fashioned apothecary bottles, which originally were in pharmacies because they were meant to represent the elements of earth, air, fire and water, but which you wouldn't often see in a pharmacy today. So what could the idea be about here? Well, most of Hirst's works, like the work of many artists of the past, are about life and death. The honey attracts flies to come in or other insects, but they end up zapped in the insectocutor, the killing machine. Drugs, medicines, to us represent healing, so people might come into a pharmacy to get better. But even if you spend thousands of pounds on drugs, in the end you, like the flies, will die. But we also have the full bottles, which are the 4 primary colours, the tools, the materials of the artist. And I think he's also saying that art, like drugs, can cure, can heal, if not the body, then the spirit.
Now, so there you have your listening with the transcript. I hope you didn't cheat. So let's have a look now at exercise B and C. Now, so let's see. Now, Letter A is describing picture number 4. Let's have a look. There it is. Do you remember that frog with the party hat on? So let's see. Title is Kobe Frog by Dutch artist Florentine Hofmann. It's 10 meters high and was made for the roof of a museum in Kobe in Japan. No, remember she talked about the earthquake there, no? Letter B is picture number 6. Let's look. Ah, there it is. Can you see the one with the stones on the floor? Now, the title is Blaenau Festiniog Circle. Blaenau Festiniog is a place in Wales by British artist Richard Long. It was part of an exhibition of art created from different landscapes called Heaven and Earth. Letter C is number 1. Oh, that auspicious looking cot over there. Let's have a look. And the title is Incomunicado. Falta la O. Incomunicado. No? By Palestinian artist Mona Hatoum. It's a sculpture by an artist who was born in Beirut but exiled from her homeland to London. And letter D is number 3. Let's have a look. Oh, there it is. Letter D, number 3. Okay, let's look at the description. The title is Pharmacy by British artist Damien Hirst. It's like a real room with some unusual things, such as 3 stools with bowls of honey on them and a machine for killing flies suspended from the ceiling. So how did you do with letters A, B and C? Any problems there? No? Now again it says, what is the idea behind each piece in letter C? So let's have a look. Well, the idea behind the Kobe frog is to make people think about enjoying life and having a flexible attitude in times of disaster. Now, remember she talks about the earthquake. Blaenau Festiniog Circle, the idea is to make people stop and look and realize how beautiful the countryside is. No? And they're the kind of series of heaven and earth. No? Incomunicado, the cot represents the government or the country that should look after you, but in certain situations, instead of being safe, you feel threatened because of political oppression. And the final one is pharmacy. This is about life and death, also about how art, like drugs, can cure you. Now, let's move on to letter D. Can you see? Let's move on now to letter D, and it says, now listen to Ghislaine talking about understanding modern sculpture and installations. Does she think that compared to normal painting or sculpture, these types of art are A, easier, B, more difficult, or C, about as easy to understand? And we'll also look at letter E. We'll do the same as before. I'll play the listening once with the transcript. No? It says listen again and answer the questions. No? Question number 1. Let's make them a little bit bigger. Where in the gallery might you find information about installations or modern sculptures? Number 2. What does Ghislaine recommend that you do to get the most out of modern art exhibition? Number 3, what does she say that your job as a viewer is? And number 4, how does she think people might find Mona Hatoum's cot beautiful? Now again, remember, we're going to listen. Well, I'm going to play it once with the transcript, but feel free to listen as many times as you need. Okay, are you ready?
4.8.
And this is all very fascinating, but my problem is that I don't think I could ever have got there by myself. I needed you, an expert, to explain these works of art to me. Whereas if I went to a gallery to see normal paintings or sculptures, I could probably enjoy them without needing to have them explained to me. What do you think?
Well, I disagree there. I don't think you do need an expert to explain them to you, actually.
Okay.
In any case, with modern sculpture and installations, there's normally some interpretation on the walls, so you can read about it if you want to.
Right.
But I think if you're going to go to a gallery to see modern sculpture and installations, and perhaps a lot of modern art in general, the best way is to go with someone else or with a group of people and to talk about the work, to ask each other questions about the things you see. And very often you find that by asking questions and coming up with the answers, you can get much more out of it. You know, even though it may not look like the kind of art that you're used to, you have to believe that the person who made it is an artist or was an artist, and that they have things to say, and it's your job to find out what they might be.
Don't you think then that they're making you work much harder to enjoy their works than artists did in the past?
Actually, no, I don't, because plenty of other works are just as elusive. Abstract art or sculpture, many old master paintings where you don't actually understand the symbolism. There's always more to understand.
OK, so then, in that case, do you think artists today want to make you think? They don't just want to create something of beauty?
I think they always have done. They have ideas and feelings, and they want to give form to them. And actually, I think many people would find Richard Long's stones beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And other people might think that Mona Hatoum's cot is beautiful. Maybe not exactly a beautiful object, but a beautiful and rich idea.
OK.
Beauty can be a beautiful landscape or a portrait of a beautiful person. But I think it can also be a beautiful idea.
Thank you so much, Ghislaine, for coming in and talking to us today. I'm sure our audience will be entering the galleries now.
Now, so there is our transcript and our listen. Now remember, listen as many times as necessary, but right now we're going to move forward and we're going to correct now. So what about letter D? Now, does she think that compared to normal paintings or sculpture, these types of art are A, easier, B, more difficult, or C, about as easy to understand? And she says essentially they are about as easy to understand, no? Because there are some abstract works from the past, so it's not necessarily about when these installations or these works of art are created. Now let's have a look. What about exercise E? So question number 1, where in the gallery might you find information about installations or modern sculptures? Well, on the walls. No. Number 2, what does Ghislaine recommend that you do to get the most out of a modern art exhibition? Well, she recommends, that you go with someone else or even with a group of people and you talk and you ask each other questions about what you're looking at. No? Question number 3, what does she say that your job as a viewer is? Well, she says your job as a viewer is to find out what the artist is saying. And question number 4, how does she think people might find Mona Hatoum's cot beautiful? Well, she said that they might find that the idea that the cot represents is beautiful. Well, not the object itself, but the idea that it represents. Now, just before we finish for today, letter F says, would you like to go and see these modern sculptures and installations? Who would you choose to go with? Again, if you feel brave, you can send this question, do a recording, send it to the WhatsApp group and see if we can get a discussion going. Yeah? If not, don't worry, we'll continue tomorrow. So thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.